In this video, I'm going to share with you types of gaslighting, including predictable phases and phrases. So be sure to stick around till the end. I've got a lot of good stuff for you today. Let's dive in. Tamie M. Joyce here, empowerment life coach, creator of the Freedom class and the Ascension class. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comments section below. And if you're back, welcome back. Thanks for showing up and for tuning in. Either way, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. So let's talk about gaslighting. First of all, what is it? Well, gaslighting is persistent lying, but with a very specific and deliberate intent to undermine and invalidate the feelings, the perceptions, and the experiences of another. It is very specifically the emotional manipulation and toxic bullying that narcissists use to cause their chosen targets, quite deliberately, to cause their chosen targets to second guess themselves, question their perception of reality and their experiences, and ultimately even their own sanity. It's quite deliberate, right? Sick stuff, but true. Goes on every day. Those of you being narcissistically abused know full well how crazy making this is, especially if it began in childhood, right? So you've literally been programmed through this sick gaslighting behavior to doubt yourself, question yourself, and your own perceptions of reality. It's also, by the way, what emotional manipulators and toxic bullies use to rewrite history so they can avoid accountability and responsibility. Make no mistake, it is absolutely, without question, emotional and psychological abuse. In fact, it's so destructive that long-term exposure to gaslighting tactics will ultimately cause the target to lose any sense of personal identity and self-worth. For example, growing up in a home where you're constantly being targeted, invalidated, criticized, diminished, and demeaned, in addition to being taught or told outright that what you think and feel doesn't matter, isn't important, nobody cares. They're either telling you that directly or indirectly by virtue of their behavior or their absence, right? When those are the messages that you receive consistently over time, when you're real young, this sets you up. This sets us up for a long-term pattern of low self-esteem in addition to self-doubt, right? So what it really sets us up for is attracting more of the same in our adult lives. We carry that sense of low self-worth, no idea who I am, how I fit into this world, where I end and you begin, what my rights are, the very fact that what I think and feel matters and that I actually have rights doesn't occur to me because we've been so gaslit for so long, starting at such a young age. Then we land in adulthood and we wonder why we attract this into our adult relationships, whether that's romantically, in friendships, at work, wherever, right? It's a pattern that was imprinted on us at a very young age. We carry that self-doubt, like I said, that low self-worth, that low self-esteem into our adult life, and ultimately attract more of the same in our adult relationships. Fun stuff. So let's talk about types of gaslighting. In the early stages of a relationship, the narcissist will typically start off with smaller, more subtle, seemingly insignificant things, really just to see what they can get away with. They're testing the waters with you. Over time, it'll get worse. Usually a lot worse. But it'll start off with milder forms where the gaslighting really serves to create a very subtle yet inequitable power dynamic in the relationship, with the target being subjected to the narcissist or the gaslighter's unreasonable scrutiny, judgment, and criticism. At its worst, pathological gaslighting is a severe form of psychological abuse and mind control. And this type of gaslighting, whether it's pathological, the more severe, or even the early stages and more subtle, either way, make no mistake, this occurs in personal relationships, at the workplace, and even over an entire society and the collective at large. For example, the mainstream media propaganda machine is a tool that is used to manipulate the perceptions of the masses, right? And gaslight us daily. Sound familiar, anyone? Now, comment below and let me know whether or not you've had the experience of being gaslit. And if so, who was it? And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there are links in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. So here are the 6 typical phases to gaslighting. Phase number 1, lie and exaggerate. Phase number 2, repetition. This is used quite deliberately because if you tell a lie, any lie, often enough, long enough, people tend to believe it. Phase number 3, escalate when challenged. Call them out on their BS or their nonsense. And this is when you're crazy. You need psychological help. Phase number 4 is all about wearing you down over time. Phase number 5 is all about future faking and false promises. This is where the narcissist suddenly behaves in a way to actually give you false hope, cause you to think, oh, maybe things can change. Maybe they can change. Maybe they now get it. Maybe things will be different this time, which is a manipulative ploy to set you up for phase number 6, which is all about dominating you and control. Now, here are some very common and typical gaslighting phrases. So listen up, because when you hear these, especially if they're coming from someone who has a habit of targeting you in any way, no matter who they are, chances are really good you are likely dealing with, at the very least, an emotional manipulator, if not a full-fledged toxic bully with nefarious intent. So, gaslighting phrases, very common. That never happened. I never did that. I never said that. You're crazy. You know, everyone thinks you're crazy, right? When they bring in everyone, everyone's a big word, but they'll bring in everyone because they're busy gathering the troops, whether the troops are actually there or not, right? Everyone thinks such and such and so and this and this and that, right? Everyone, you're probably being gaslit. You're so insecure. You're so controlling. You're so dramatic. You have anger issues. You need psychological help. And one of my personal favorites, I have no idea why so-and-so doesn't answer the phone when I call or speak to me or show up at family functions anymore. Please. They know exactly why. Now, here's the bottom line. If you're in a relationship, any relationship, romantic, friendship, at work, family of origin, this goes on a lot in highly dysfunctional family of origin, especially if, as I know many of you do, identify as being the family scapegoat. If you're in any relationship that causes you to doubt yourself, your worth, your value, your experiences, what you hear, what you see, what you feel, what you know, what you've lived, your memories, your perception of reality. You are being emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually abused. That's the truth. Okay? Nobody has the right to tell you whether or not you have the right to feel what you feel. Nobody has the right to do and say something in front of you and 2 minutes later say, that never happened. Nobody has the right to do and say something to you and say 40 years later, that never happened. Give me a break, right? So if you're in this type of relationship where you are being caused to question yourself, doubt your experiences, doubt your feelings, whether or not you have the right to those feelings, it's important to recognize that you are being, as I said, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually abused. The long-term consequences of such are devastating. The longer this goes on, the bigger the price you will pay. Now, you may or may not be able to extricate yourself from this situation immediately. You may not even want to for your own personal reasons, sense of obligation, loyalty, whatever it is. Fair enough. But here's what I suggest you do until you're ready to extricate yourself, right? What I suggest you do is start documenting everything. And I mean everything, whether that's in a Word doc, on your computer, or in a journal that you keep safely hidden away so nobody else has access to it. Just writing out your experiences in black and white can be the thing, the big difference maker that can help you stay clear and really hold on to your truth. Because this stuff, to say it's crazy making, is a huge, colossal understatement, right? Especially if it's been going on for a long time or from multiple sources, right? To say that it's crazy making is an understatement. It's devastatingly hurtful, harmful, destructive. So documenting will be the thing to help you stay clear and hang on to the truth of your reality, your experience, why you think what you think, feel what you feel. And you don't owe anybody an explanation. So start there. Start by documenting your experience as an act of self-care and self-love so that you can hold on to yourself and your own truth. Also, it's important to understand that when you're an empath, when you're a highly empathic human being who doesn't lie, it's not your habit to mislead, distort, lie by omission, manipulate, lie outright, deceive at any opportunity, right? When that's not who you are and you're being lied to, especially about small stuff that doesn't even matter, in addition to the great big huge stuff, naturally, you're going to second guess yourself. You're going to wonder, like, is it me? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? Right? Naturally, as a highly empathic human being who does not lie, when you're being lied to in this fashion, you're going to second guess yourself. So it is vital, and I mean vital, that one way or another, you do the healing work necessary so that you become far less susceptible to this very sick form of emotional, psychological, and spiritual manipulation and abuse. By doing the deep dive healing and recovery work that many of us, welcome to the human race on planet Earth, have to do to some degree if we want to evolve our consciousness, want to evolve personally and spiritually to the next level, we've got, we can't just be looking outside. We've got to go inside and do that healing work. And I can promise you, in doing that work, you become far more discerning and far less susceptible, far more bulletproof, far more able to trust yourself, your reality, your feelings, your intuition. And it's a lot harder for some empathy impaired, conscienceless individual to come along and mess with you. And a big piece to this, especially in early days, early healing and recovery days, a big piece to this is having the right support system in place. Doesn't have to be 100 people, but a small handful of reasonably, relatively healthy and sane human beings who actually have your best interest at heart, so that they can help you sift through the nonsense and make sense of what's true and what's not, right? So you can hold on to your truth, your reality, and not lose your ever loving mind with all of this abuse going on. Having the right support system in place can make all the difference in that regard. We need relatively reasonably healthy, sane people in our lives as a sounding board sometimes. Never more true than when we're in early healing and recovery days, until we get to the place where eventually we can validate ourselves. We're clear, we're strong, we're bulletproof, we're relatively healed, and we know the deal, right? Until we get to that place, a support system is a great, big, huge piece to the puzzle. So with all of that said, my friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. I'm going to call it a wrap. If you liked what you heard, be sure to drop a like and a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was today. And if you're new to my channel, once again, a great big huge welcome. So happy to have you here. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to say hello and introduce yourself in the comments section below. And if you're new, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there's a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Much love. Bye for now.